This was a hoax. The president released five of the worst, and in return, all we got was Qatar saying that they will keep an eye on them, they'll monitor them. There's no reason why we should trust Qatar.
So New York Congressman Peter King blasting this move, the five former Taliban leaders freed in exchange for Bo Bergdahl. They could be dangerous, no matter what precautions the White House says are in place, and apparently at least one has been in contact yet again with the Taliban. General Jack Keane, retired four-star general, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and a Fox News military analyst. And General, good morning to you. You said it was a bad deal from the beginning. What does this mean now?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it was bad because of who they are, and they're top leaders of the Taliban. Second, the conditions. I always felt they should have been house arrest, independent observers, no phones, no computers, no visitors except for family. Likely, as a result of this public exposure, I do believe that we've probably taken another hard look at what are the controls in place to prevent re-engagement. And look, I take Admiral Kirby at his word that when he says there's mitigators in place, he's a straight shooter. I trust what he's saying. I mean, we can assume we're monitoring any communication that they have and maybe actually getting some intelligence value out of it in that respect anyway.
A couple specific questions then. And Kirby was talking to Sean last night, and he says he takes these re-engagements very seriously, as they should, as you well know also. He also said we have a good relationship with the government of Qatar. Do we?
Well, I think we have a mixed relationship with the government of Qatar. We have a major military base there. But Qatar is also the organization that helps to fund Hamas. And there were some indications that Qatar was also doing some early funding of ISIS. So our relationship with Qatar, to say the least, is complicated, and that's a generous word. The fact of the matter is I've been frustrated with Qatar for years, and I think we should have disassociated ourselves with them because of funding Hamas and other terrorist organizations.
Well, I mean, Peter King basically says the same thing there. There's no reason why we should trust Qatar. Now, you mentioned in your first answer we need to change our policy of watching them for potential re-engagement. What should we change, General?
Well, none of us actually know the exact conditions that they're under, and I was espousing some that I think should be in place. But I think probably our guys have looked at this and making certain that re-engagement is not going to take place, and if there is some re-engagement taking place on the phone, we sure know what that discussion is all about and what it means. So I'm comfortable that based on this public exposure, our guys have taken a look at it and probably put in place, I'm making an assumption here, that there's some adequate controls.
Last point. Mac Thornberry, Republican from Texas, said it was almost inevitable. You think he's right?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, these top five, one of the things that I learned out of this, and I didn't see it at the time, what I just said is the statements I made when the swap was made. But I'm convinced now, as we've seen the White House's behavior, not the Pentagon, the White House's behavior in emptying out Gitmo because they can't close it, that these five top Taliban leaders would never have been released. They would have been the ones that stay to the very end. But the fact that they were in the swap got five more people out of Gitmo. And I'm being a little cynical here, but I'm comfortable in making the judgment. I think that was part of the White House's motivation. They didn't see anything wrong with releasing these top five because they knew they would never get out any other way.
Well, and you knew you had the cover of bringing an American home, whether you believe he was the deserter or not, in Bo Bergdahl. General, thank you. Jack Keane out of Washington, D.C. with us. We'll talk again. Thank you, sir.
Good talking to you, Bill.
You too.